Today we're going to be talking to you guys about the top 5 things we hate about full-time RV living. It's really grumpy about it.
I was supposed to merge right, I guess, to get back on 40, and I went the wrong way. So our water froze last night. I didn't check the weather, I guess. I didn't realize it was going to get that cold. I just got everything changed over, and the light on the refrigerator came on. So we're off to a great start.
Mike's a little grumpy.
Quarantine 2020. Steph and I are stuck in the camper. This is day 3. Have you gone crazy yet?
Ah!
It's affecting us all in different ways.
Welcome back if you guys have been here before. If not, we're glad to have you. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Mike.
And together we are Life Rerouted. I'm a travel nurse and we travel full-time in our Grand Design Imagine. That's what we're going to be talking about today. What we don't like about it.
Boo.
It's going to be hard for me because I tend to be a fairly positive person, but there are definitely some things we don't love about full-time RV living.
Yes. So we're not going to sugarcoat stuff. We are going to talk very directly to you guys about the things that we really don't like about living in a camper full-time. And we're going to kick it off with number 1.
In no particular order.
In no particular order, but this is number 1.
It's actually probably number 1 overall.
If we did it in order, this would be number 1. It's a space.
Oh, goodness.
This is a small space, guys, and when you're going from a house to an RV, it can be very difficult. Now, we did have the in-between where we were already living on the road. We did the Airbnb thing, had some rental properties that we stayed in and stuff like that, so we were already downsized when we got to the camper, and in some ways we kind of were able to upsize a little bit, but definitely getting into a space that's this small has its disadvantages. So that is definitely number 1. It gets cluttered easily.
You can leave one piece of paper out and you're like, it's such a mess.
How many times have we been in the kitchen and had a couple of dirty dishes and they're like, it feels so cluttered.
I'm looking at the kitchen right now and it's a disaster.
Yeah, so it doesn't take long, and being in constant contact with the person that you love and being in a very small space has its disadvantages. It's small.
It's hard to organize sometimes. It doesn't matter how many times you reorganize the silverware drawer, it's always going to be a mess because you have one drawer for all your silverware.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how many times you try to clean, it's going to be cluttered again.
That's just part of it.
Yeah.
So you live small, but it's small.
You can't have everything too. Like, we had kayaks that we traveled with for the first couple of years and they were awesome. They were kind of a pain. But I would love to have them again. But we have bikes on the back instead of kayaks.
You can't take everything with you.
Yeah.
So when you live in a small space, it also comes with a small refrigerator. So that means a lot more grocery trips. Even the pantry next to the fridge in this particular model isn't huge. So you have to go grocery shopping more. It just makes it more difficult to cook. You know.
And when you go grocery shopping, you have to strategically remember, like, okay, where's the milk and where are the eggs?
Yes.
Because can I fit this right there or no? Is there room in the freezer for this? Well, we're not eating this week. And then
less trips to Sam's. We like going to Sam's, but we can't buy stuff in bulk like that, like we used to be able to. So that's definitely a downside, just having that smaller space.
It seems like an obvious one. Obviously, it's a smaller space, but it's tedious at times trying to figure out where everything can fit and if it can fit. Number 2 would be campgrounds. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but just even finding a good campground. You can do all the research you want and you can read all the reviews.
It looks great. It all looks great online.
We have groups that we are in on like Facebook and different social medias that we ask like, hey, how's this one? Some people say it's the best, some people say it's the worst. And you're like, well, I guess we'll just see. And you show up and it's awful.
Yes, or it's great.
Or it's great.
You had no idea that it was that nice. So do your own research, but just know that sometimes, just like anything else, hotels and everything else, people build it up or people break it down. It's probably going to be somewhere in between, but do your own research when you're looking for campgrounds.
And then even within the campgrounds, we have been very fortunate over the years to have great neighbors. But for example, the campground that we're in right now, on the clear other side, there are people some nights that we can hear clear over here.
Yep.
Which isn't a big deal. You all go out for the weekend, you want to have fun with your friends. But I work very early in the morning, and if that was my situation every night, I would be a little irritable.
Campgrounds can not be great sometimes. Sometimes they can be fantastic. Just do your research and know that the campground life sometimes, it cannot be wonderful. So that leads us into number 3, which is amenities. So when you're in a camper, especially full time, it can be challenging to find water, electric, a place to dump your black tanks, a place to dump your gray tanks. Sometimes it can be challenging.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it can be not so challenging, but it is an issue constantly that you have to make sure that you have that lined up, whether you're staying at campgrounds or if you're on the road trying to boondock. When we're in Sedona, for instance, we didn't have a place to dump our gray tanks because we were boondocking. We also didn't have a place to plug in or get water. So when you're boondocking especially, that's going to be very difficult for you to find. Not impossible.
No, but you have to be very aware of conserving what you have, especially when you don't have hookups or you don't know where. So you know exactly how much water's in your water tank.
Water tank?
That's the technical term.
How much water is in your water tank?
What is that called?
Freshwater tank.
Freshwater tank. Completely blanked on
You're right there. It's fine.
Water tank. But you have to know how much water you have so you can flush the toilet if you need to, brush your teeth. You probably can't shower that many times. Yeah, you have to know when your black tank's gonna fill up because you don't want to have a full black tank and nowhere to dump it.
Stuff you don't think about when you're living in a house. That's just part of it.
And coming with that, one thing that we continue to struggle with, and we've talked about this in multiple videos, has been Wi-Fi.
Yes. So Wi-Fi has been a constant struggle with us. I've just picked up a hotspot device through the Calyx Institute that's not working very well. So we've been struggling with that, but it's kind of been a constant struggle for us to find unlimited, good internet.
Yep. Wouldn't be that big of a deal, but Mike was in school online for a while, and then obviously with a channel we need internet connection, and it varies every time we move. And we fortunately only move every few months usually, but people that full-time and move every few days, I don't know how y'all do it because it's a constant struggle for us.
RV park Wi-Fi is usually pretty bad.
Yeah.
So just a part of it, I guess.
It's one thing we don't love about RV living. So number 4 would be build quality. We live in a camper, and campers are not made to live in full-time. It doesn't matter how nice of a brand you get or how good your warranty is, inevitably it's made a little flimsy, things are going to fall apart, it's going to show wear and tear more easily than a house would.
Paper thin walls, paper thin doors, trying to hang up a picture or something like that is near impossible. That's why we love 3M strips, just because it kind of cuts that guesswork out of it.
So many 3M strips. I think every RVer out there can relate to that. This video is in no way sponsored by 3M, but thank you 3M for creating 3M strips.
I may link some of our favorite 3M strips down below if you guys are interested though, but we're not sponsored by them.
Along with the build quality is kind of the constant worry that something's gonna break, because if something breaks, it's not like, hey, I'm gonna call a plumber, they'll come fix it real quick, or oh, the axle broke, we can't get to my next job because we can't move our house. You just live kind of on this constant worry that something's gonna go wrong with the camper.
And finding RV repair people can be challenging, especially when we're in Greenville, South Carolina, where there's not as many RVers. We're here in Florida now, and when we were out in Phoenix, there's a lot of RVers, so there's a big need to have those repair people. But when you're secluded or in a smaller town or something like that, it can be more challenging.
And something else we have to worry about, kind of goes along with the build quality, is if we have inclement weather coming in. We have lived in Tornado Alley and now we're in Hurricane Central. Yeah. So it's stuff we never would have thought about with a house.
There's been, what, 3 hurricanes?
Since we've been in Florida?
Yeah, in Florida since we've been here, so
You have to have your backup plan. We've been in multiple RV parks that have storm shelters, and I think the first time we saw it, we're like, what? And we're like, oh,
Well,
that's probably a good thing to think about.
Yeah, pretty sure it would just get shredded. So that is something to consider. You can't just go to the basement or anything like that. And last but definitely not least is spending all your time together. We did talk about this in our previous video when we talked about things we love, but constantly being by the person that you love. It can have its downsides, believe it or not. As much as we love each other, if we ever get in an argument, where do you go? You're right here next to each other. So you go outside.
And then all the neighbors, the privacy thing, they know that you're arguing. We're a pretty good team. We see each other as partners first, but inevitably you're going to argue with the people you love, or you're going to get sick of chewing on their fingernails or constantly clicking a pen or making a noise. There's nowhere to go. You're always together.
Being in a small space, you have to figure things out. And it also makes you kind of work things out a lot more than usual.
It's supposed to be negative. Which
Negative. Yeah, so arguments can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. You kind of need to find your own way to have your own things. And we've got to the point where I don't think we really have a problem, me sitting here reading a book and him sitting there doing whatever he wants to do, where we're together, but we're also apart.
Headphones.
Headphones.
Yes, having headphones can take you into your own little space. That's one thing that we have learned over the years.
Yep.
So just know that being in a small space has its disadvantages.
Yep. Being together all the time.
All the time. So yes, those are our top 5 things that we hate about full-time RVing.
Yeah. Like I said, it's kind of hard for me because I tend to be fairly positive, but there are definite downsides to living in a camper all the time.
The pros far outweigh the cons, but just know that having a small space and having to deal with all the stuff that's associated with the camper, with dumping your tanks, finding water, electric, Wi-Fi, all the stuff that's associated with that, it can be exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. Finding campgrounds, worrying about things breaking on the camper, spending all of your time with the people you love in very close proximity.
Thanks for joining us this week, guys. Make sure that you're subscribed to our channel so you follow along with our little adventure here. And we'll see you guys next time.